Welcome to the Yellowbird Hotline, the podcast where your favorite hot sauce company answers questions from our customers that we're totally unqualified to answer. Thanks for joining us this week. Speaking of joining us this week, we have a special guest this week, you guys. I want to introduce y'all to my very dear friend, super funny guy, comedian, Paul Varghese. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you guys doing?
Good, doing pretty good. Paul's got a bunch of dogs with him.
I'm trying to frame it, but they right when you started recording, they like jumped out of frame. So
for all of our audio listeners, there's dogs that you're missing.
Fight crime.
Right. Go to the YouTube to get all this dog footage. I do want to mention Paul's got a comedy album called Paul and Oates. It's on Spotify and on iTunes. You can stream it. You can download it. He's on Twitter at Paul Varghese, Instagram at Paul V Comedian, and Facebook at Paul and Oates. They're all different tags, which I appreciate.
Channel specific, man.
Well, you know the problem is my name is very common in the part of India that it derives from. So I have to be right when Twitter launched, I was the only guy to get in first.
Yeah.
So in my Gmail, I had to put numbers on it and all that stuff. And so that's why it's all over the place. And the guy who has my Facebook, Paul Varghese, lives in Dallas and he refuses to give it to me. I know him. He refuses to give it to me.
You know what? I got very confused.
Is it your dad?
I got very
real
confused.
Cool dad.
It was Paul Varghese. When we were first Facebook friends back in, I saw Paul Varghese commenting on your stuff, and I was like, does he have another Facebook account just to?
Yeah. No. Yeah, it looked very catfishy, but it was hard to explain to people that because there's actually 3 Paul Vargheses in Dallas, and so one of them are
radiologists. And then...
I mean, the 2 are more successful. They're at work right now, but one of them is was kind of like a man whore at Carrollton Newman Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. And so everybody that went there, when they would come see me at shows, they'd be like, "Hey, you used to date my sister." I'm like, "No, I didn't." I'm I didn't date anybody in high school. It was pretty easy to figure out that I didn't. So they just kept insisting that I was lying about it. "Yeah, you fucked her over, buddy. I remember. I don't forget." And I was like, "It's not me." "Yeah, how many Paul Vargheses are there?" "Well, technically there's 3. By the time I say that, they're already over at Pete's, so they don't hear shit. So
you're like, no, it's cool. I'm a virgin. You're like, wait, what? That took a wrong turn.
And then there's another guy that sued the Dallas Police Department for job discrimination or something way back in 04, 05. So when the first time I got on TV, they called me and asked me if I had any lawsuits I wanted to admit to. And I was like, "I don't have anything." And then they're like, "You sure you didn't sue the Dallas Police Department?" I'm like, "I'm pretty sure. Didn't sue them." Well, how many Paul Vargheses in Dallas? Really? What are the odds? I'm like, "Well, technically there's 3. And I went through all that list and then they went to Pete's and the same thing. So yeah, it all ends the same. But yeah.
So now you're just yelling
this. At Pete's at the end of the night.
It always ends up at Pete's. Everything ends up at Pete's.
Yeah.
Happens at Pete's, stays at Pete's.
Nope.
Pete's is Mr. Stereo Paul.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's not true at all. Well, Paul, usually what we do on the podcast is people call. We have you can call. Oh, I forgot to mention, you can call 855-700-BIRD, 855-700-BIRD, and get your question answered on the show. That I haven't checked the numbers this week, but I assume millions and millions of people listen to.
That's a fair guess.
So so I've got a pretty good one queued up today. In past episodes, we've kind of gone off the rails. We're a food company, and we make a habit of going way off the rails, but this is a food question. So I'm going to queue up our listener question of the day, or as I like to call it, the QOTD. Yep. Here we go.
Listen, I am in the middle of a very busy intersection, literally in the middle of it, but I will start a fight with somebody here unless you guys help me figure out which is better, pie or cake. Dear God, somebody give me an answer.
Yes. I love the passion, first of all,
I love that energy. I love that the hotline really is like you know, you can be anywhere in any situation, but you've got to get through to us. You know, it's your most pressing questions in the middle of an intersection.
She's buckled up, man. Like, one, for her safety, and two, because we're about to answer that question with with a fierceness that I don't know if she's ready for.
I feel
Strap
bad.
in.
I feel bad for the car behind her that's been honking for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Call Yellowbird Hotline.
Sitting there at the stoplight, not moving.
You know, this is
no.
This is where we should do some merch. We should make like a bumper sticker for the like stop honking. I'm calling Yellowbird.
Oh, I like that.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah, that's a good first draft.
But okay, so
I like this question a lot, right? Because like for those, like as we're recording this, we're in that fun space between like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so I think there's a lot of like pie versus cake arguments going on in Hose right now. So I think we're really gonna build some reconciliation with this podcast today.
I still have a piece of peach pie in my refrigerator from Thanksgiving. Do you think it's okay?
Probably.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right now, while we're on the show.
I mean, sugar, I think, is one of the greatest preservatives, right?
They found honey in the Egyptian tombs, right? And they ate it, from what I understand.
No,
they made a pie with it, yeah.
I mean, they're still pulling water from the glaciers in Everest, right? That's a real thing. And those bottles that I get from Kroger for 99 cents, they go there, right?
Everest glacier water.
Also, that's a drink.
So let's
ew. Yeah,
let's start with
steeped with dead bodies on Everest. That's all it is. Man.
Oh yeah, that's how you get that crisp flavor.
Yeah, ew.
Let's start with maybe like a little bit of definition of cake and pie. I like to be like the Google definition guy. That's my
nerd.
Role. I know, but I think that there's some like weird crossover where like is a cheesecake is kind of seems more like a pie, right? But like, so from my research, I'm not going to read the Merriam-Webster definition because that we get a lot of hate mail when I do that. But
yeah, from Merriam and Webster.
But it seems like the defining characteristic of pie is like the pastry layer, and some pies have one, some pies have two. But you could like in that definition, cobbler might fit in with the definition of pie, because like you can have a pie with a pastry layer just on the bottom, or on the bottom and on the top. I would argue that for the sake of this conversation, we could maybe fit cobbler in, and like cobbler versus pie is probably a whole other argument.
Well, I think we already covered it in like another podcast. Like cobbler is a casserole, so it doesn't really even count in this conversation. Am I right, Kelsey?
It's a dessert casserole. I think cobbler's on its own. Don't put my cobbler with pie, you know.
Okay.
Different animals.
We'll take cobbler out of it. But
thank you.
But we're talking about, and pie can also be like, there's savory pies. You can have a meat pie, a shepherd's pie. Like, I think that
pot pie.
Yeah, if you're putting meat in cake, you're on meth.
Yeah, you shouldn't. That's what I was gonna say. Like, no.
Also put meth into that pie.
No meth pie.
If you're putting meth in cake, then you're on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
But I'm going to say that for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to rule out savory pies, because I think in order to get like
but we can keep meth in there. So.
We'll keep the the views expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views of Yellowbird.
Yeah, they are not approved by the FDA.
But let's say dessert. Let's say dessert in both cases, since it's the holiday season. We're most likely not talking about shepherd's pie. We're talking about, peach pie versus like carrot cake or something. And then cake, I would say like the defining characteristic of cake is the flour, that it's kind of, when you say cakey, it's like a floury kind of, it's like a sweet bread. And so that's kind of like, we got the pastry layer on pie, and then we got kind of like the sweet bread aspect. There's all different kinds of cakes and pies, but I would argue that maybe for the point of this conversation, that ice cream cake might not be in the cake category.
What about urinal cake? Same thing, not in the category?
Probably not in the category.
Yeah,
also,
more of I think that falls in with like after dinner mints. It's one of those things. Yeah, you only eat that for freshening your breath.
Okay.
Also delicious. But we'll
Also
take it out.
not FDA approved.
Out of the
Right.
box. Out of the box.
Right out of the box. Come on, don't be gross, people.
Well, I mean, George, is it worth it for us like to go around the horn and just go ahead and get like a clear picture of where everybody stands?
Well, I want to start. Yes, exactly. But I want to start with our special guests. So let's go to Paul. Paul, cake or pie?
I think in society, cake is more respected. So I'll go with like you can put carrot cake and they put the vegetable in the title of the cake. You put carrots in pie, you have to share it with chicken and pot. I think that's a fair thing. I think they didn't call the movie American Cake. They called it American Pie, and that shows you how much they respect cake, because they could have easily pumped a cake, but they didn't.
Well, and I appreciate your thought process here, Paul, but I also want to say, like, I feel like you're dodging the question here, brother. Like, this is one of those things where we want to get the Paul Varghese hot take, right?
Cake, because there's cupcake, there's transportable cake.
Oh yes, cupcake is definitely in the category. I didn't even think about cupcake.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's one for cake.
Cake is. I was touting cake.
Yeah. So Paul is team cake right
Yes.
from the start. Aaron,
Oh man.
where do you land on
I'm
this?
Team pie. I'm team pie. I mean, I love a good crust. I love a pizza pie. I love a chicken pot pie. I feel like you can do a lot of things with pie. I'm a pie person.
Well, we're taking the savories out, but your pie.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of things with pie.
Well, what do we think?
And cheesecake is totally a pie. I guess you could.
Do we all agree that a cheesecake fits in more with pie than with cake?
I'll allow it.
Okay, because that's kind of what I think too.
But people throw pies at each other. That shows you how much they don't like pies.
Aggressive.
Or they love them so much that they want them to be thrown at them.
So
So
we got one.
Pie's like the Rodney Dangerfield of pastries. He just can't get no respect, man.
Is that how stoning works in the Middle East? They like stones so much they just throw them at them. That logic.
Yeah.
Can't get enough of these.
Can't get enough of these stones.
Stones are no, then throw them at me, please.
So we got one cake and one pie. Daniel, where you at?
Cake all day. That's easy.
Cake all day. What's your favorite type of cake?
So I like a pound cake with any kind of jelly on it, dude. Like you give me like a pound cake with like a raspberry jelly and like a cream cheese icing. Forget about it. I'm gone for like the next week on like a cake bender.
I will
Like
say
butter.
fruit flavored cake is way better than fruit cake.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
agreed.
Not nearly as heavy as a fruit cake. Not nearly, it's harder to weaponize. Going back to that, but yeah, dude, a fruit flavored cake is way better than a fruit cake.
I can get down with like a fruit cake with anything with cream cheese icing, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you guys are leaning towards the pies now and cobblers.
No, they're
have fruit in them.
I think they're making the
fruit cake is a very grandma Mima.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Dessert. It's in a
But
box.
by that logic, I don't think the cake is doing the heavy lifting. I think the icing and the frosting is really tying it together. I think if you have a naked cake, I mean, you're not going to not eat it, but it feels wrong.
Are you saying that pies need icing? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no,
no,
not at all.
Icing, though?
But I think that takes away from the pie, because I think personally pie it's more fussy. There's a lot of pressure with a pie. You have to make the top look good. You got to make the meringue look good. You know, a cake, you can undo a lot of sins. Again, cover that, just keep adding cream cheese icing to it. You know, throw some fondant on there and nobody knows what's under there. But a pie, you can see if that sucker is burned right away.
Would you celebrate your birthday with candles and a pie?
Absolutely not. I mean, I don't think that pies are celebratory. I think they're there, you know, they're more of a
conciliatory. Hey, sorry about your loss. Here's a pie. Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I think, you know, you can, anybody can, you know, even a bad cake is a good cake, right? Because you can buy a store-bought cake mix and whip that sucker up half-heartedly and eat it partially baked while you're, you know, kind of sad because you took it out of the oven too fast because, you know, it was a Friday night and you had nothing else going on and you had a time to eat
what
it.
are you?
If you take some like raw store-bought pie crust, not gonna eat that. That's not a snack. But you
Mm-mm.
know, I'll make myself sick eating like cake.
Raw
batter.
cake dough, raw cake
Oh
batter.
yeah, dude.
Yeah,
all
they don't make
day.
a pie batter ice cream.
So,
Ma'am.
so Kelsey, are you cake or pie?
I think for the holidays, you need to have a pie there. You know, that's just tradition, and it needs to be part of the spread for the Instagrammableness of it all. But I think cake is, you know, besides the fact that there was the trend this year of everything being cake, and I did lose some trust in those viral cake videos. I think cake is it's just there for us, you know, easier to get to.
I think pies symbolize like you took time, like it's love. Like if somebody's baked a pie, it's different. But on the flip side, you only have wedding cake. There's no wedding pie.
I wish there was. So Kelsey, are you team cake as well?
Unfortunately, I think I am team cake. I'd like to be team pie because I think it's more, you know, it's maybe a little more bougie, a little more classy. It photographs better, but at the end of the day.
See, I'll even fight that because like we made the move. Oh, it's so moist. We made the move a few years ago. No more pumpkin pies at Thanksgiving. We do a pumpkin pudding. Forget about it.
But isn't pumpkin pie just pumpkin pudding with pastry attached to it?
Correct. So why you need that nasty crust?
Oh my God, crust is the best part. Okay, so we got 3 cakes, 1 pie. I'm also on team pie. And I think that for me, like, would I rather have a cake or a pie? It really is going to depend on what's the cake, what's the pie. But I think that like one of the questions for me, like when I was thinking about this, because I've done some considerable thinking about this question, is like what is the, like if you go to the store and buy one of these items, what is easier to have a good one of? And for me, it's like if you get a store-bought cake, it's kind of all the same. Like the store-bought cake is all kind of the same, and store-bought pie can be pretty good. Like a store-bought pumpkin pie, I've had some really good, like HEB does some killer like pies, like Costco. I've had some amazing pies from Costco.
I gotta back it up a little bit because like that's not my measure of like what utilitarian wise what makes, you know, the better pastry or like the better confection, right? Because for me it's all about if I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm more likely to enjoy a slice of cake or a slice of pie before I go back to bed, right? Before I pop 6 Ambien and go to sleep.
Oh geez.
10 times out of 10, I'd rather have, you know, a slice of cake than a slice of pie.
I am for a slice of pie over a slice of cake, only because I remember buying a slice of cake and you could tell it was like one of those customized cakes that hadn't been sold because there was like half a letter on that slice. I was like, how sad is that person? It feels like I killed them on their birthday. How sad is that?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that with the slice of pie.
You just get a capital A and you're like, Ashley,
and it was
Amanda,
so many
whose cake
questions,
did I
right?
get?
Yeah. Is this Patrick or Patricia? I don't know. I don't have enough context.
All I saw was the last part of condolences on there. That's what I was eating.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I think you ate a curse at that point, you know. Those condolences weren't for your insides.
Well, I think that's
like the black and white cookie.
I think that if you're going from that angle, from like I just want to, because that's another thing I like about pie is I feel like it's pretty easy to like have a pie in the refrigerator. And I'm pretty anti double dipping. That's been established on a previous episode that I hate the double dip.
Never forgot it.
But if it's like just me and Aaron and there's a pie in the refrigerator, we will both just like, you just get a fork full of pie.
Yeah, just
fork the pie. That's really hard to do with a cake.
Bunch of pie forkers.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do with I don't know what kind of cakes you're eating, but it's really easy to just go in on a cake.
Well,
when I
think of a cake, like I'm thinking more of like a 3-layer cake. That's kind of like, my brain goes to like a 3-layer cake with icing in the middle of the layer, you know. I'm not thinking about.
Again, that's an impressive cake, but I feel like, you know, you like you know, Paul brought up a cupcake, you know, something gentle, something small, just a little 1 layer with a little icing on top of it.
Would you feel guilty eating 3 slices of pie or 12 mini cupcakes? HEB has those mini cupcakes that I just pop like.
Oh yeah.
They're 1 bite.
Yeah.
So good.
It's like the whole clamshell in my mouth. Yeah.
Like I throw the whole thing and then pull out the wrapper like this, shake it.
I could do that with those like packaged pies. Like I love pies so much. You know, the apple pies in the package, they're just individual servings. Yeah, I can do that with those.
Is
like
there
the
a
little fried hand pies? Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
can get down with that.
is there a pie equivalent of like a mini cupcake? Because cupcakes are awesome. They do have like small
Tiny pies.
I mean, yeah, there's an entire company in Austin called Tiny Pies.
Called Tiny Pies.
But
How
is
have you
it-
not been there? If you're a big pie
But that's not like
head,
a. But we're talking about like the
Perfect.
mini cupcake is like one bite. The tiny pies are like they're like this. They're like a
no,
little.
because I
They're
think
like
that would
cupcake
be.
pies.
I think that would be too much crust. How are you going to get that much filling in
So like,
size of a tiny pie?
I'm sure there are, George, because like I've seen like the little mini quiches or like the little like bite-sized cheesecakes, right? So there's got to be like little other.
Oh yeah, the
other
little
bite-sized
bite-sized
pies.
cheesecakes. That's a good point.
Do you need to
I
call
do
them a
I do a lot of
pilot?
hosting, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm quite the entertainer, you know. In these trying times, I have to entertain myself.
What would you say, like over the course of your lifetime, you've eaten more of, and just pure tonnage? What have you put more into your face?
Cake.
Like more
Pie.
cake? Okay.
Cake.
Cake.
Absolutely.
Okay, so everybody voted for the thing that they have eaten the most of. That makes sense.
I've been to a lot of birthdays. I've been to a lot of weddings. You know.
There's
I guess-
comfort in.
I guess is that a
consistency, man.
crime? Yeah.
You know, I
I'm
judge it off
classifying
of.
cheesecake as pie though, so I've eaten a lot of cheesecake.
Mhm.
The
Okay.
end.
Do you judge people like when there's like a birthday? I'm like, oh, I don't want a slice of cake. I get mad at that person, but the person who rejects a slice of pie, I could care less.
Nah, dude, I am the worst because I'll be like, oh, more for me. I'll have hers. Is
Oh.
kind of like my line. I'm shameless.
I do think cake is maybe a little more diplomatic because people, you know, are always like, I'll just have a sliver of cake, and you can cut that smaller, but trying to cut a really crumbly pie into a small piece is just a mess. And then the top comes off and you don't even get a full piece of apple and the cherry goo is going everywhere. I think a cake
That's a
is
good
just
point.
That's a
easier.
super, super strong point. Because what I'm hearing you say is that cake builds bridges, right? Like you have an office party for like somebody's birthday. What do you get? A pie? Oh, hell no. You get a big sheet cake.
Mhm.
What
We didn't
about
talk about cookie cake. Oh my goodness.
I was going to say cookie
Oh,
cake. Does cookie
no.
cake fit in cake? I would argue that cookie cake is just
Already a
cookie.
crust though. Wouldn't you put
Cookie cake is out. Cookie cake's just a cookie. It's not
Yeah.
a pie or a cake.
cookie?
What if we could put cookie cake with cookie batter on top?
Yes.
Like
Mm.
cake pie hybrid.
You know what? I'm doing that tonight. That's gonna happen. I've never
What if
tried
you
it.
could make a pie with the
and
and
put
the
a
crust?
stick in it. It's a cake pop. It's a pie pop.
Pie pops, cake
What-
pop.
But
Yeah.
what if you could make a pie with like a pizza? Wait, pizza? That's not what I'm with a with a cookie crust.
What are you
With a pizza
doing?
crust. I don't know, man.
All I know, dude, is if we don't answer this like definitively, like in the next 2 minutes, this caller is gonna find where we live and burn our houses down. So guys, let's make
Well,
this happen.
I think that like if we're democratizing this on this call, we got 5 people. We got 3 votes for cake. I don't think that me or Aaron is going to sway the cake vote here. So I think that I think cake is probably going to win. But
George is
but,
like, as for me and my house, we will eat the pie.
we will eat the pie. I would be interested to know like how many people,
Have your
because
cake.
Kelsey, you did mention the like cut me a tiny sliver piece, and nothing makes me angrier than the cut me a tiny sliver person. What is the
That is
why?
because they want to try
Nothing?
a little bit of everything, and that only works with pie whenever your pie holds its form, like cheesecake.
Mhm.
Cheesecake you can cut cheesecake's probably pretty easy to cut a small piece of.
So is pumpkin pie, as long as it's made right and doesn't
But
fall.
Would
Paul,
you-
I got to imagine that slice of peach pie that you have in your fridge is not it's not a tiny wedge, is it? I mean, it's
No.
probably the quarter of the pie.
It's like half an orchard of peach and like a little bit of crumb.
Yeah.
We measure in orchards in our family.
There you go. you serve it with like a gallon of ice cream. There you go. Enjoy.
I put it on underneath the
Microwave
cake.
some ice cream on top.
Now, but Paul, you're Indian American.
Yes,
I've heard you talk a lot about your mom's Indian cooking. Did you guys? I mean, like have like for because we're talking about the holidays and about pies and cakes.
Yeah.
Like, do y'all have around the holidays? Did your family do any of the like
traditional stuff? You mean?
Traditional American stuff?
Yeah,
or
so Thanksgiving is always traditional for us because we wanted it as a kid. So my mom slowly evolved her cooking throughout the years. So like when I was a little kid, they didn't know anything about Thanksgiving. They would have their Indian food and they would get us a turkey loaf. You know what a turkey loaf is?
Yeah.
Is it like meatloaf?
It's like a pound cake. It comes in like a pound cake container, and you zap it in the microwave for like 2 minutes. And that was our Thanksgiving for a while. We loved it.
Huh.
Turkey loaf.
We did that for a while. Then we realized that she would have a couple potlucks at the hospital she worked at. She realized, that people don't eat turkey loaves, and we morphed into carrot raisin salad and a spinach jello hybrid thing that she loves. And then this year we bought the turkey.
Wow, this was the first year y'all did a whole?
No, they used to make the turkey, but their turkeys. I never liked turkey because they make terrible turkey. I didn't know that they were just making bad turkey this whole time because it gets dry so quick.
It gets really dry. Yeah, it's hard to make a good turkey.
You gotta base that bird.
Yeah, so we had a pro cook it. It was a lot of money, but yeah, that was what a real turkey tastes like. It was awesome.
I love it. I love a good turkey.
Wait, I want to hear more about this spinach jello thing.
Yeah, that's
what you think it is. So it's jello.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm picturing like 70s dinner parties with everything is in a jello mold.
Yeah. When they're trying to, like, when Sears is trying to sell their plate collection, and they show all that shit. And there's a thing of corn, and then there's like this little spinach jello thing. Yeah.
Okay.
My theory is she's made, because she started doing it in like 2014. It's the same thing, and I think she just freezes it. And
she's made it once.
Nobody touches it. Nobody touches it.
Just resurrect it. Yeah,
exactly.
That sounds crazy. My family is Lebanese American, and so we did, like, growing up, we had sort of the hybrid thing where you've got like the American, the turkey and like the stuffing next to like tabbouleh and kibbe and all this sort of like Mediterranean food. It's a really so when I have Thanksgiving, I think of those things together, of those like different cultural foods like together.
Well, they used to always eat in the other room, so they didn't want to ruin our Thanksgiving, but I don't think they wanted to be around. Thanksgiving is actually kind of a boring meal. It's a pretty boring meal. I mean, this could be for another podcast, but
yeah, man.
But people like Christmas. Christmas is ham, right? If I remember right.
Is it? We were talking. We're not doing like Aaron every year, since you bring up the ham, every year on December the 14th when we're like, what are we going to do for Christmas? Because we don't think about it until the week before Christmas. We're like, Aaron always reminds me very pointedly that she does not like ham, and we're not going to do ham. And I'm like, I know.
It's bold.
This is fun for me because I get to kind of like bring it all the way back. So my family, like 20 years ago, my mom said, what we're going to do every Christmas? We're going to do crab cakes. So for us, it's crab cakes. Every Christmas day, my mom does crab cakes, or are we doing them here now? So one more vote for cake.
Yeah, you brought it back. You brought it because I was thinking there weren't savory cakes, but there's crab cake. What's it like another savory cake? Beef cake.
I'm right here, George. Right here.
Well, I think caller, I hope you've not been waiting in the intersection this entire time. I think that the answer, I don't want to say it, but it's cake. It's cake. And I'm glad that we had a tiebreaker. Paul, if you hadn't been on this episode, we would have been split down the middle. It would have been hard I would have been trying to sway Kelsey and Daniel, and they are pretty famously unswayable.
I think I was just working on 5 minutes on cake for my act. I think that's what just happened.
Yeah. What's your next show that's coming up?
Well, it got canceled last night. It was going to be on Saturday at Tree. Tree shut down. I think they had a COVID problem, so they shut down for a couple of weeks. But I have a New Year's Eve show, but it's, whatever. It may all shut down. I don't want to put people out to shit that shuts down, so they should just get my album. It's great. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to call it a day. The decision is cake. Pie versus cake. It's cake. And if you've got a problem with that, call us at 855-700-BIRD. We've had Paul Varghese with us today. Thanks so much for joining, Paul. Again, you can get his album, Paul Oates. We've also had Zemo, his dog. What's the other dog's name?
Harden, after James Harden.
Harden. Oh, yeah. There you go. We've had Zemo and Harden, Dog Patrol, on here. You can get Paul's album Paul Oates on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you download your stuff. Twitter at Paul Varghese, Instagram at Paul V Comedian, Facebook Paul Oates.
Yep.
Paul, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, until next time, call 855-700-BIRD and stay spicy out there.
Bye.